welcome back to the Man of the Month interview series. I'm Michelle Marchant Johnson with Love Life Coaching. I'm your host, and I'm here today with the wonderful Dave Elliott. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be back.
So happy to have you here, and I'm really excited about featuring you again on this series. And you and I are old friends now, so I'm excited about what's new with you and your new book and sharing some of your wisdom with the ladies here.
Sounds great. Love to do it.
Yeah, so before we jump in, Dave, I want to give just a little bit of a formal introduction. And even though I know many of the ladies will be familiar with you and your work. When it comes to relationship transformation, Dave Elliott is a noted expert, author, international speaker, and an accomplished coach who gets results for his clients all over the world. He's especially gifted at teaching smart, amazing women how to bring out the very best in men. Well, that's who we have here, Dave. That's who we have in this audience. Rather than suffering through their worst. Whether he's sharing his expertise in books or products or on some of today's most widely read relationship websites, on TV, radio, or stage, you'll come away with the new awarenesses, skills, and strategies to get the breakthrough results you really want and need. I love it.
Sounds good.
So, Dave, I know that you have a couple of books out, and I'd like to talk about the first one just for a little bit, and
Sure.
then I'd like to segue and spend the bulk of our time talking a little bit about the second book, some of the insights from that, and some of the patterns that you've observed, and some of the things that you can give us as far as tips to
Sounds
avoid
great.
those patterns.
Okay.
So the first book that you wrote was a book called The Catch Your Match Formula, right?
That's correct. Just happen to have one here.
Oh, you just happen to have one. Great. So tell us a little bit about this one first, and a few ideas from this one, if you will.
Yes, love to. Catch Your Match Formula is a book. It was the first one that I wrote, and the genesis of it came when I was working with a lot of clients. I've been coaching now for 11 years, and they would tell me that, this whole online dating thing isn't working for them, and they're not meeting anyone, and it's a problem. And I would always invariably say, well, let me take a look at your profile, because look, when you're fishing, you're only going to be as successful as the bait you're using, essentially. So I would take a look at it, and I'd read it, and I would think, I understand why it's not working. And my background before I got into coaching, I was an award-winning copywriter in an advertising agency. And basically, I just formed this book. I created a formula about how to write a really good and compelling dating profile. And what I did is I help people understand that essentially a dating profile is a form of an advertisement. An advertisement has certain jobs. Otherwise, they're wholly a waste of time. You've got to get people's attention. You've got to educate them. You've got to inform them. You've got to entertain them. You've got to have a call to action. So if they don't email you back, the whole thing was a big waste. And so there are a lot of jobs. And what I found was most people do. Anyone who's been online can look at their same version of, like, they throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and here's who you need to be to date me. And that's not the way an advertisement works. It's sort of an exercise in personal branding yourself. And I make the case in the book, like, every TV commercial you've ever seen, or every magazine ad or whatever, every advertisement ever it tells you about the product and why you should want it. Maybe it gets your clothes cleaner, maybe it's more cost effective, maybe it's just fun to drive or gets better gas mileage, whatever it is. There's got to be some kind of a product benefit, and most people don't talk about what are the benefits that they bring to the table. And in a dating profile, like it or not, you're the product. And so I just help people. It doesn't go real deep into it, but I basically help people answer the question, who are you? What do you bring to the table? And some people find that really a confronting thing to think about. And some people haven't given it any thought whatsoever. And that totally flies in the face of how people show up on a date. People show up on a date saying, okay, I want to learn more about this person, and I think if you're not able to speak confidently and competently about what you bring to the table, I think that explains why your dating isn't really working for you. So, you know, and in the book, I just gave a bunch of exercises and a bunch of easy ways that people can kind of, you know, wrap their arms around the idea and come up with something really good. And
Hmm.
it's working because so far I've had a bunch of clients who've used it and gotten married from it. So that's pretty cool.
Hmm. So when I'm working with my clients on their profiles, Dave, one of the things that I uh, share with them is that we want to create in words a picture of what it might be like to spend time with them
Yeah.
and create a compelling vision of the kind of person that they are and how much fun or how nice or how exciting it would be to spend time with them. Is that part of what you're saying here?
It absolutely is. In fact, I use those exact words in the book, painting a picture with words and
Okay.
using stories to illustrate. Like, for instance, um, I talk about tell people why you're the best, and the best is an acronym. What's the benefit of dating you? What's the experience like? The S is what's the sizzle? What's exciting? What's that thing you wanted to do? And like for some people, it's, you know, use a bunch of examples like, you know, I want to scuba dive the Great Barrier Reef or do this or go here or travel here, something that's really kind of romantic and cool and aspirational. And then the T is, you know, what are the traits that you bring to the table? And then specifically I sort of pull that out and say, okay, the example that I give often is, you know, someone says I'm adventurous. Okay, tell me what
Mm-hmm.
adventurous is to you. Some people, adventurous is I'm going to quit my job and, like my wife did, put on a backpack and travel the world on an eat, pray, love journey for 4 years. That's adventurous. And then some people are like, it's Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. That's their idea of adventurous. So it's important to illustrate with a story, and then the story becomes kind of sticky. Anytime you take a fact and an emotion and put it together, like if someone reads your profile and they say, oh, I've always wanted to scuba dive the Great Barrier Reef too. That's cool. I want to know more about that. Bam.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a sticky association and people reach out to you and you're like, you're the Barrier Reef girl, or, you know, or something like that. So yeah, I use those types of devices to illustrate who you are and what you bring to the table, exactly what you're talking about. And it works because, you know, and it's based on the premise. Again, you take a fact and an emotion and you put it together. Like if you ask the question, where were you when you heard about 9/11? Every single person to a person can tell you where they were, who
Mm-hmm.
they were with, what they experienced, who's around them. And it's because of the emotion and the facts, and they're inextricably woven together, and you can't be separated after that. So it's just using that understanding of how people process information and use it in a way that serves you. That's what
Mm-hmm.
that's what I help them do.
Yeah, I really like that BEST acronym. Thank you for sharing that. That's really
Sure.
helpful.
Yeah.
And also, you know, and this is maybe another way of saying something similar, when you gave the example of I'm adventurous. Well, what does that mean? You gave those tangible examples, your wife and someone, I don't know what I'm doing for the weekend. That's their idea of adventurous. If you can show and not just tell, like you show by giving an example or a little story, maybe that's part of what you mean by saying combining the emotion with the fact.
Absolutely, yeah, and it just gives people a better feel for who you are, and it tells them like what's life going to be like with you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, some people are totally aspirational, and the first one, the, you know, total random putting on a backpack and traveling would just speak to their soul, and then other people would be like, "Oh, that's not for me," you
Yeah.
know. And so again, that helps people either fully opt in or opt out, and it gets people's attention, and it really informs them and tells them who you are. So my belief is there's someone for everyone, and there are going to be people who absolutely love that. And if you find out early on, like, you're going to put on a backpack and disappear for 4 years, that's probably not something that I'm into. So you've saved yourself someone who's not going to really be into it. Now, I met my wife at the end of that journey, right? So it was all about timing, but it worked out great, you know. So that's why I tell the stories, because people navigate the world with their stories and what things mean to them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think you're bringing up an important point here too, Dave, which is that the profile is actually intended to attract and draw in the people that would resonate with who you really are. And you've got to have enough in there so that someone kind of gets that sense of who you are. And it's also in part a tool to weed out or to repel those that wouldn't be an appropriate match for you. It can be a tool to, in part, do some of that for you. And so I think sometimes when people think about sharing some of these things, it might feel a little scary because they're thinking, well, that might not resonate with people out there, but it's going to resonate with the right people.
Right. And that's the idea about the book too. Get people really clear, like, talking head and like we're doing, you have to be really clear. And in order for people to take away, either whether it's a dating profile or an interview like we're doing, there's talking heads kind of speak in sound bites. And so you need to be able to maybe package a long story, but have 10 words that bam, give the idea and are really powerful and compelling and communicate exactly what you want to communicate. And the book also helps people be proud of what they bring to the table, because it is awesome. And there are some people who absolutely love and resonate with everything, that you are and that you want. And so be proud of that. Feel great about it, because the most compelling trait, male or female, we're both attracted to very different things. The one single most compelling trait between both sexes, both genders, is confidence. And so if you come to that profile and you're really proud of who you are and what you bring to the table, that's a big part of the book too. So that's critical. Confidence is just, it's magnetic. It's all about attraction. So it's important to do that work before you sit down to write it and say, oh, let me just get something live and I'll throw it out there. And then 6 months later, you look back and you see that no one's responding to you because it's muddled. It's all over the place. You don't know. You're not confident about what you're bringing to the table. You're saying the same stuff everyone else says. Before I got married, I did online dating too. And, I wish I had $1 for every woman that loved to dress up in jeans and go out and had a black party dress too. Those kind of, read it a million times kind of things.
Yeah, kind of cliches.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's okay to use a little bit of a cliche, but again, bring something unique and interesting to it. Bring a hook that gets people's attention. They say, oh, tell me more about that. So that's kind of what the book's about. It's about how to make you really come across intriguing, create some curiosity and intrigue, and because again, the call to action is, if you want to know more, send me an email. The only way someone's going to really want to know more is if you generate some kind of intrigue or curiosity.
Right.
Don't throw everything at the screen. You hold a little back, and you kind of a little bit of a tease, a little tantalizing aspect to it.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And your book, show it one more time for the audience. So those that want to pick it up,
For our
exact
visual
title.
viewers.
The Catch Your Match Formula, and it's available on Amazon, right?
It is indeed.
Okay. So now I want to segue, Dave, because I know you have this new book out, and I want you to share with us a little bit about the new book. I won't steal your thunder. And you can tell us a little bit about it, why you wrote it. And
Well, I have one handy.
okay, there we are.
That book, as you might have seen, is called Same Shit, Different Date. And the title is about, a lot of people have heard the saying, same shit, different day. But I turned it into a dating thing, because the point I'm going to make is when you start to look back at, it's based on Imago principles. And it's about, the challenges that people usually have in dating are related to unresolved issues from childhood. And so what I want people to see is, even though the people you've dated in the past and the people you're going to possibly meet coming up soon, if there's some kind of unresolved issue from the past, you're going to keep meeting people that are going to bring that lesson to you. And it's not about punishing you. It's about teaching you. It's about filling that void, healing it, and letting it go. So like I help people, and like there's a section of the book where I let people kind of do a little bit of digging and realize that when you pull the string and you start to realize like that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy, every single one, there was some sign of unavailability, or there was some piece of abandonment, or something about rejection, or something about, you know, knowing your own self-worth or something. And that when people first come into your life, everyone's on their best behavior, right? So that's camouflaged and you're not going to see it coming. And most people don't do the work in hindsight to say, this one was like this one, it was like this one, it was like this one. But you pull that string and you start to unravel it, it takes you right to the root. And in the book, I talk about something I call the root issue is your relationship origin of trauma. And I hope people understand that you're going to learn everything that you need to know about in life within your first 7 years. Every single thing you're ever going to need to know is rooted right there. It's about the examples that you saw growing up. It's about the conditioning that people were given by the people closest to them, their parents. It's, you know, teachers, it's grandparents, it's you know, all kinds of family members, maybe religious leaders, you know, whoever is closest to you conditions your behavior. And, you know, it's really fascinating when you start to, like, I was just talking this morning, I have a friend who's in town, and we were chatting about this whole conditioning thing. And like, we were talking about coffee, and he was like, how do you, I was saying, you know, this whole idea of cream in tea is kind of gross to me. He's like, but you like cream in your coffee. What's the difference? And I thought, I never even thought of that. I do. And then it's this whole idea of like, how did that become the way I like it? How did I learn that? And a lot of times it's conditioning. It's an experience, and the experience becomes something that's enjoyable or something you hated. And then you know, what foods do you love? It's because you had a great experience and it's your taste. Or he was talking about interesting thing. He grew up in Japan, and he likes what is the thing? I'm trying to remember. It's the, you know, that stuff that you wrap sushi in, the sort of the seaweed stuff. And he said
Yeah.
how he loves it, and he says he thinks it's probably related to the fact that he grew up in Japan. And I said, ugh, it's kind of gross to me. I don't really like it.
Right.
And so we're talking about that. And it's like, you're a product of your experiences. His father was military, and he grew up in Japan. And so for him, it fires off all these great memories. And for me, it's just like, oof, it smells bad. I don't,
Right.
you know, but it's all based on past experiences that are internalized and really deeply embedded. I literally just had this conversation a couple of hours ago, and it's like, you start to realize like how many things are deeply scripted uh, inside your psyche that you're not even aware of, that you think, that you believe, that you dislike, that you hate, that, you know, all these things. It's all buried in there, and it fires off at sometimes the most inopportune times.
That's so true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of what the book is about, is helping you kind of do a little bit of digging and unearth that stuff. And ultimately, awareness is like probably 70% of healing. If you don't know you have this thing, you're never going to see it. You're never going to heal it. It'll keep coming up again and again. And so, like, for instance, if the issue is I keep meeting unavailable people, now you know that. Now you can do something with it. And there's a bunch of exercises in the book that'll help you clear that out and heal it. And I also make the example with my clients, you know, it's like third grade. The reason you're not in third grade today is because you accomplished everything in the curriculum that the state or municipality mandated had to be learned in that school year. And so
Mhm.
now you're free to go. You're at work today rather than third grade because you accomplished everything. And so when you have the awareness of what's in there and what comes prepackaged, where did all that come from, and you can heal it. Once it's healed, you're not going to keep getting that lesson. So you'll start to meet all different people, and you'll resonate at different levels, because we all kind of vibrate at the level of our wounding. I've never said that way before. But so it's funny, like, you know, I also make the case in the book that, you know, how is it that people that have abandonment issues keep meeting people who are eventually going to abandon them?
Mhm.
It's not happenstance. It's not a coincidence. It's literally, there's something when you meet people, where people are drawn together. It's magnetic, because you know intuitively, or not intuitively, not consciously, but unconsciously, you know that they possess a lesson that you need and you haven't yet gotten. And it's just fascinating when you do that work, and it's all about healing.
Hmm. So it seems like that one of the premises of this book, if you will, might be that if you're seeing a pattern, or if you're attracting the same kind of relationship patterns into your life, you are the common denominator.
Yes, that's the inescapable conclusion. What do all these things have in common? And the answer is they have me in common. And again, it's not pointing the finger at blame. It's saying, hey, let's take a look at this and let's heal it. Because once we heal it, it's like third grade. You don't have to go back. You don't have to get it again. You will start to resonate, and you will attract people who are, if you're healthier, you're going to attract healthier people. If you're available, you're going to attract more available people. If you're, if you're in a great place, you're going to attract other people who are in a great place. So that's what's critical about it, doing that healing work.
Hmm. Well, it allows for the things from the wounding, if you will, from the past to be healed to the point where it's not directly ruling or taking over your present and your future, I think.
Absolutely. Yes.
And we can't really do anything about it if we're not even aware that it's operating underneath the surface, right?
Totally true. I mean, because think about it, like if, say, there's a rejection and abandonment thing there. Um, and then 5 relationships and you either got ghosted, and it looks different every time. That's the thing that confuses us as well. Like maybe you got ghosted, maybe the rejection is someone who's in a relationship that lied to you, wasn't telling you the truth. Maybe someone died, maybe someone, whatever. There's rejection and abandonment shows up a million different ways, and so you don't put the pieces together. But if I just told you that all those things has a form of rejection and abandonment, or abandonment could be someone got transferred out of state, or someone went to prison. It looks a million different ways, and so you don't necessarily put the pieces together. But there's an exercise in the book where I actually help you pull that together, and you're like, oh my God, that happened with every single person, and it's directly related to this aspect that happened at an earlier age that kind of created that anchoring and conditioning that now I actually expect that to happen. And you would never know that because it's so deeply scripted. And that's what I want to do with this book, is help people put read the tea leaves, do the digging, and start to figure out, like, oh my God, that's why that keeps happening. I just ultimately want people to be free. I want them to just be in a great place where they can attract other people who are doing their work, and just create great relationships that are not only satisfying to them, but inspiring to other people too, because it's the collective. Rising tide lifts all the ships. And so if one person builds this beautiful relationship, it inspires everyone around them, all the family, all the other people, all the friends, and it changes everything. It brings people together, and we focus on peace and harmony and all these great things, rather than focusing on disagreements and strife and all those things. So healing one person heals many.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I like how you also brought up the fact that it can look differently. So if it's rejection, abandonment, it might come in several different forms, which is why it can be difficult to pick up on, or it's one reason why it can be difficult to pick up on what the actual pattern might be. I
Yeah.
think that's really helpful.
Yeah. When I started to pull it apart, and I like did this exercise that's specifically about, understanding the themes and what they were and how they can show up in so many different ways. Because again, they're hiding in plain sight, and you don't necessarily see what you don't know to look for. And if you don't know to look for it, you're certainly not going to see it, especially if it's that well camouflaged. And that's why I say, if you pull the string and you start to, like, oh, this is like that, it's like that, it's like that. Holy crap. I had no idea that was such a pattern.
Hmm. Mhm. Well, that's great. So again, this book is also available on Amazon, yes?
It is
You want to
indeed.
hold it up one more time, Dave, for us?
Sure, happy to do it. Same ship, different date. And
Okay.
also, there's a book that is a companion piece to this. So there's a lot of exercises in the book, and you're never going to guess what the name is. The name is Companion Piece, but Peace. So
Oh,
the idea is you do these exercises and you heal it, you're going to attract in a companion, someone who you can have a peaceful, really rewarding relationship with, because you're doing the work. As I said, as one person heals, we heal other people that are around us just automatically by the way we show up and by the inspiring example we set. So that book is it's just an easy way to do some of the exercises. It's also available as a companion piece to the first book, but it's not. People can still journal it and write it, but I just did it because I find it was easier to not have to rewrite things and all that stuff. You could just fill in the blanks and answer things and check boxes, circle stuff. So that's the point of that book.
oh, that sounds great. And that's also available on Amazon as well.
Of course it is. Yep.
Okay, great, great. So I want to ask you a couple of other questions that may seem a little bit random based on what we've talked about so far, but I am intrigued to hear your answers, and I think the ladies will be too.
Sure.
So I'm curious, Dave, I know that you have some advice on how uh, our clients out there, the women that are listening, can get a second date pretty much anytime they want to.
Yes. I literally created something called a second date formula, again, because I like to make things easy and understanding, and create a formula that pretty much, it's like a recipe. You take the right ingredients in the right order and syntax, you follow the directions, and it's going to pretty much, you can replicate it pretty much anytime you want, anywhere. So the formula in that is, and the other challenges too, like a lot of times, and I'm sure you've had this experience with your clients as well, people show up on dates and they, the typical self-talk and emotional stuff. It's like, oh, should I have said that? I don't know what to say. Ooh, was that the right answer? Was that a good thing? Do I look okay in this dress? And all that self-talk and chatter that gets in the way of showing up at your best. That's the other benefit of my second date formula. I give my clients an assignment, and the assignment is, okay, you're going to go on this date. And a lot of people show up on a date and they're like, all right, what's wrong with this one? And they start
Right.
what's wrong, where's my deal? Look, he does this or does that, or they look for deal breakers, and my assignment is, no, we're gonna blow that up, but we're gonna turn it around. You're gonna look for 3 to 5 things that you like about that person, and it's about an appreciative eye. It's about looking for what you like and then specifically putting it out there and um, uh, saying it. And so if you learn about this man and he shows up there and he says, wow, I really respect the fact that you've been an entrepreneur for so many years. And, I think that's a special type of person that can do that. Or I love the fact that physical fitness is such an important value for you. Or I love the fact that you're such a dedicated parent. Or I love that you volunteer in the community, or what have you. There's always something that you like about this person. Now, this does not mean that you have to date them again. You have to see them again. You can learn everything you like, everything about that person, and still say, I don't really feel a match here, but it's really been great to have this time with you and get to know you. And that's okay, because you also just complimented that person like 5 times, and most people don't show up in this way. And so my belief is, you meet people where they are and you leave them better than you found them. And that is beautiful dating karma. And if you compliment the person you're just meeting for the first time 5 times and no one else does that, or very rarely does that, what do you think they're going to think? They're going to say, I don't know what it is about you, but this was really a great time. We should do this again. What do you think? Probably like 90% of the time, people are going to say, we should do this again. Because I like how I feel when I'm talking to you, because you get me.
Mhm.
Whereas most people are showing up on that date like, all right, what's wrong with this one? And they got their arms folded and they're closed up. And I just think it's a beautiful gift. I think when you show up in that world looking for what's great, you're going to get more of what's great. If you show up looking for what's wrong, you get more of what's wrong. The victory is focusing on what you want. and then
Mhm.
you'll get it. It's just a matter of time to get it. I think people tend to get too fixated on what they don't want.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the huge advantages to this was something you alluded to a little bit earlier, is that one of the challenges of first dates, along with maybe checking someone out to see the reasons that you might want to reject them, or that what might be wrong with them, is that mind chatter that you're talking about. For women
Yes.
especially, I think this happens where we're projecting into the future and thinking, could this be my guy? Is this my guy? Or we're thinking, does my hair look okay? Do I have spinach in my teeth? Does this outfit make me look fat? Does he like me? That sort of thing. But if a woman's mind is focused on what can I see that I can appreciate about this human being in front of me, that that's likely to distract from that other mind chatter that might be going on, that
100%.
can sabotage so many first dates. Because I think first dates are tricky anyway. People are
Absolutely.
nervous. Sometimes people show up and they're nervous, and so maybe a guy talks constantly about himself without asking anything about the woman, or he doesn't talk at all, or he seems, or it's just awkward for both people. But I think this is really powerful, and I also love the karmic aspect of it, of leaving people better than you found them.
Yeah, I mean, because dating can be kind of a bruising process, especially if you're doing it in the ways that we were describing that make it really difficult. And the other questions are going on like, what does this mean? Are we dating? Does he like me? Is he going to text me? Are we seeing other people? Are we going to get together next week? All those questions where if you just focus on it, and again, like you said, the example of, a guy who's sitting there and doesn't ask any questions about her, he might be nervous too. And he might, a lot of times when people are nervous, what do? They could talk and talk and talk and talk. And what does he know about? He knows about himself. Now, I'm not defending the idea that people are self-centered and, only interested in their own selves. And at the same time, I also know that most people are self-directed. Um, and their primary focus and consciousness is on what's important to them. But at the same time, I also know that nervous people will tend to mask. Um, People get uncomfortable in silence, or if they don't know what to say, so they'll just talk about something, just as chatter, just to chase away the discomfort. And so, sometimes you got to ask a better question. What else could this mean? Is he really just, narcissistic and self-involved, and it's all about him, and he doesn't care about me? Or is he just like really nervous and he continues to chatter so he doesn't have to sit with those feelings of discomfort and look like there's nothing interesting about him?
Hmm.
And the
Yeah, I
answer that you
think
come up,
another way. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, the answer you come up with from my question, is it this or that? Um, that's going to dictate how that date goes and how your dating life goes. And again, I also believe in a woman's intuition. If your intuition says, no, this guy's kind of a self-involved jerk, I totally believe in that. It still isn't a bad thing to give them 3 to 5 compliments and say, I don't think this is going to be a match, but thanks, it's been good. So yeah, I think it's just common courtesy, and it's a nice practice, and it helps you show up, helps make you more comfortable and confident, and I just think there's a million benefits to it all the way around for everyone.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really good approach to a first date. And I do think in the right situations, it definitely could help lead to a second date. Because let's face it, one of the ways that people gauge whether or not they want to go on a second date is how they feel around that person that they've been engaging with. And if you're making someone feel good about themselves, chances are they might really like to be with you again, right?
How about that? Isn't it magical how that works? Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
how about that? How about that? So, Dave, I want to put you on the spot for a second. I know you can handle it because you and
Okay.
I are old friends. And I know I've fed you random questions before over the years. But since this is the Man of the Month series, and it's kind of an extension of my man panels that I do once a year,
Hmm.
one of the intentions here, of course, is to help women understand more about men. And so I want to put you on the spot and just ask you one question, which is, what is one thing, like one takeaway that you think that women should know about men in general? And I know men are different from man to man, but in
Mhm.
general, what's one thing that you think the women should take away, and or an insight that you can share about men in general that might be helpful to the ladies listening?
The first thing that pops to mind, it's a bit of if it hasn't been your experience, it might seem shocking to you. But the thing I would say is that if you look for the hero in a man, I assure you that it's there somewhere. And a lot of people, a lot of our clients have had experiences that were less than great. They have stories about men are jerks, liars, users, a-hole, whatever, fill in the word. And sometimes I'll sort of gauge a new client. I'll say, fill in the blank. Men are blank. And their answer tells me a lot. A few people show up at my very first session and say, men are heroes. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like if you look for the greatness in a man, that I promise you, ladies who are watching, I promise you that men are more conditioned to want to please you than you know. And I think when things really start to get bad is when they think they have no shot of pleasing you, and so then they just do what they want anyway. If they believe they can please you, the great thing about a man is a man will die trying. And if he believes he can, if he thinks I'm not going to be able to please her anyway, I'm just going to go do what I want. Men also don't waste energy, so you know. I think that's the thing I would say is look for the hero, and as you look for it, you'll find it more and more often. And again, it'll also tell you, like, in the book where I talk about all those little things that heal, that you need to heal, to have an awareness about it. Those beliefs: men are jerks, men are players, men are not to be trusted. And the truth is, this is shocking too. Every woman that you know who married and says, oh, he's the greatest guy, he's awesome, some woman that he dated before thinks he's not so great. She's got a story about why he was a jerk, why he was this or that or the other thing, because that was the chemistry between the two of them, and the energy between the two of them. That's where she was. That's where he was at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a man learns and grows, and he's in a different place, and it's like, it's two different people's energy. What they create, they're going to create something totally different. The same man with a woman who appreciates men and thinks they're heroes is going to create something totally different than a woman who is wounded and hurt and believes men are lying and not to be trusted. And what those two will create is going to be totally different than what the previous two people will create. And so that's why it's so important. What you and I do is to help people see that stuff and heal it and just clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, it makes a tremendous difference everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that you brought that forward, Dave. That was beautifully said, and I absolutely believe it. I do absolutely believe it, and I'm a big fan of men in general, one in particular, and I do believe that one of the things that women sometimes miss is the capacity that we have to inspire that hero in a man.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that's the thing again, it's like if you, with my second date formula, the thing is, if you meet a guy and he's inspired by you to be an even better version of himself because you believe in him, because you've got faith in him, because you've got his back, and he totally trusts you, the things that a man can do are just unbelievable. And again, I pointed out, one of the clients I worked with, uh, actually, I'm still working with her now. She had some issues. She had a very difficult relationship with dad. Dad was actually kind of a yeller, abusive, and he was controlling. And so she had some bad ideas about what men were, and so she was pretty drawn in. And I helped her understand that, like, the same things that are in your dad were in those firemen that tried to go up the stairs on 9/11, go up 100 flights on 9/11, and they knew it wasn't looking good. They knew, there's a chance this could go really badly, and they did it anyway to help a bunch of people that they didn't know. And that's the beauty of the masculine, the hero. These are people, I get goosebumps talking about this when you
Mhm.
realize that. And Oh, and she was saying something about a lot of times she'll see a man and she'll think, oh, I need to pull back and be safe. And I said, but the truth of the matter is, if you were in a really bad situation, don't you think it'd be safer if you had a man next to you who loved and cared for you, who wasn't going to let anything happen to you? And she was mind blown. And then what was made it even better, she said, I never even thought of it that way. She went back and told her mother, and her mother said, I never even thought of it that way. Double mind blown. And so the truth of the matter is, for people to say men are unsafe, no, actually the safest place you could be is right next to a man who loves you and who would die for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a game changer when you start to see that. And when you start to look, the number one need for feminine is to feel safe at all times. So I totally get that need for safety. It can be overwhelming sometimes, especially if you have been conditioned to believe you're unsafe or were unsafe for whatever reason. But again, that gets healed when you start to focus on what you want. Where is safety? And sometimes safety is right next to you. Safety is that man who would die for you. No question asked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautifully said. Well, Dave, I want to thank you so much. And I know before we wrap up, you have a free gift. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the free gift. And ladies, I want to let you know first, before Dave tells you about it, it will be in the link right underneath this video that you're watching or listening from. And Dave, tell us a little bit about your free gift that you have available.
Yeah. So we talked about my new book that came out, and since it's sort of the new one, and I'm really proud of it, we talked a lot about it, but I'm going to give people the first chapter free. So there's a version of that Same Shit, Different Date book, and there's a free first chapter, and you just get a little taste of it. See if you like it. If you like it, then pick up the rest of it on Amazon. But I'm just going to give that, and there's some added bonuses stuff in there. So that's available, and I'd love people to check it out. I've had some amazing transformations from the clients who are doing that work, and it's just really powerful. And I want everyone to kind of have that. So,
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's really great for you to offer something so generous so people can get a flavor for the book and get a sense of where you're going with this. And I would also encourage the women out there to pick up your other books, because I think you have a lot to offer. And really, really appreciate you sharing your wisdom on this series. It's always great to connect with you. Consider you to be a friend and a colleague, and I really appreciate our connection and your contribution to what I'm doing as well. Thank you so
yeah,
much, Dave.
thank you. You're so welcome. And likewise, I'm a big fan of everything that you do. I do a lot of these interviews, and I think our interviews always have a little extra something, because again, it's that whole thing, like we're such big fans of one another and what we do and how we do it. And so likewise, I see it in you as well. I love what you do.
Thank you so much, Dave. And ladies, we want to encourage you to for sure get Dave's gift using the link below. Make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch your email inbox for future Man of the Month interviews as well. We've kicked off this series recently, and it's really popular so far. So I know you're loving it. And in addition to Dave's wonderful interview today, there's more good things to come. So thank you so much again, Dave. Really appreciate it so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks.
Okay, ladies, bye-bye for now.